For centuries, we were told the Amazon was a green hell, a vast, empty wilderness where humans could never build a civilization. We were wrong. Imagine a Cessna plane flying over the dense canopy of Ecuador. Below, there's nothing but an endless ocean of trees, but inside the cockpit, a LiDAR sensor is firing billions of laser pulses through the leaves. On the screen, the forest begins to vanish. The green curtain is stripped away. Archaeologist Stefan Rostayn stares at the monitor, his jaw drops, and he utters just one word: wow. Suddenly, the screen isn't showing trees. It's showing a ghost. An urban grid of perfectly straight roads, massive platforms, and ceremonial plazas hidden for 2,500 years. This wasn't a campsite. It was a sprawling metropolis. Today, we're going inside the discovery that rewrote human history. This is how lasers brought a mythical empire back to life. For 500 years, the Amazon was considered a historical void, a place where civilization simply couldn't happen. This myth started in the 1500s. Picture a ragged band of Spanish conquistadors, led by Francisco de Orellana, floating down the river. They claimed to see massive cities, white-walled fortresses, and thousands of warriors. But when later explorers returned, they found nothing, just an endless, silent wall of green. History wrote Orellana off as a liar, a man driven mad by gold fever and tropical heat. Scientists argued the Amazon soil was too poor for farming and its climate too harsh for large societies. They labeled it a counterfeit paradise. Archaeologists on the ground were puzzled for decades. They found strange earthworks, isolated mounds, and forest islands. But without a bird's-eye view, these looked like natural anomalies or small primitive camps. They were looking at the puzzle pieces, but the box was buried. The tragedy is that the cities didn't disappear because they were myths. They disappeared because of us. European diseases wiped out up to 90% of the population before the jungle literally swallowed their wooden and earthen homes. For centuries, we walked over the rooftops of an empire, calling it pristine nature, never realizing that the smoke the Spaniards saw on the horizon wasn't a hallucination. It was the heartbeat of a lost world. For centuries, the jungle was an unbeatable fortress. You could be standing 5 feet away from a pyramid and never know it because the vegetation is like a solid wall. But then, we brought in a game changer: LiDAR. Think of LiDAR as a magic eraser for the planet. It stands for light detection and ranging. Here's how it works. A plane or drone flies over the canopy, firing millions of laser pulses per second. These beams are so precise they find tiny gaps between the leaves, hit the actual ground, and bounce back. By measuring the nanoseconds it takes for that light to return, a computer builds a 3D map of the surface. When you click Delete on the trees in the software, the mystery of the Amazon finally unravels. Suddenly, the chaotic forest floor transforms into a blueprint of high-tech engineering. You see perfectly straight highways, massive earthen mounds, and pyramidal platforms that were invisible from the ground for 1,000 years. Here's the crazy part. In Ecuador, this data was actually sitting in a drawer for years. A private company had mapped the area for an engineering project, and only later did the government hand the files to archaeologist Stefan Rostayn. For him, it was like Christmas every day. He would wake up, open a digital map, and a new city would blink into existence on his screen. The empty jungle was officially dead, and a massive urban reality was taking its place. What Stefan Rostayn saw on those digital maps wasn't just a few houses, it was the lost valley of cities. Located in the Upano Valley of eastern Ecuador, this is currently the oldest and largest urban network ever found in the Amazon. To put this in perspective for you, while the Roman Empire was at its height in Europe, a massive civilization was thriving right here. We're talking about over 6,000 earthen platforms where homes and temples once stood. But it's the infrastructure that really messes with your head. These aren't winding jungle paths. These are straight, wide roads, up to 33 feet across, stretching for 12 miles, linking 5 major cities and dozens of smaller towns into one giant web. Estimates suggest at least 15,000 to 30,000 people lived here. That's comparable to London during the Roman era. For decades, archaeologists literally walked over these hills, thinking they were just strange terrain. It wasn't until the LiDAR scan that they realized they were standing on top of perfectly geometric, man-made pyramids. Imagine a sunrise 2,000 years ago, smoke rising from thousands of homes, children running along elevated causeways, and a patchwork of drained fields as far as the eye can see. This wasn't a jungle, it was a garden. If you thought the Upano Valley was an outlier, wait until you see Bolivia. Deep in the Llanos de Mojos, LiDAR has uncovered something even more alien to our understanding of the past: low-density urbanism. This is the Casarabe culture. Instead of one cramped city center, they built a massive, interconnected landscape that functioned like a single organism. Think of it as an ancient version of a sprawling American suburb, but built out of mud and canals. 2 massive hubs, Cotoca and Londovar, served as the beating hearts of this system. They weren't just villages, they were monumental centers protected by huge circular walls and topped with 70-foot-high pyramids. But here's the kicker. Everything in these cities, the temples, the platforms, and even the graves, is perfectly aligned toward the north-northwest. This wasn't accidental. It suggests a complex, forgotten cosmology, a star map written into the very earth they walked on. Connecting these hubs were hundreds of miles of elevated causeways and canals. During the dry season, picture farmers marching along these raised highways, carrying harvests above the swampy plains. Today, those roads are hidden beneath seasonal lakes and a thick carpet of green. But for 1,000 years, they were the lifelines of a civilization that mastered the water. They didn't just live in the Amazon, they re-engineered it. As we move east into the Brazilian state of Acre, the mystery takes a turn into the realm of the bizarre. For decades, pilots flying over deforested areas noticed something strange: massive, perfect circles and squares carved into the soil. Some were over 300 meters wide. For years, skeptics dismissed them as natural anomalies or modern cattle trenches. They were wrong. These are the Amazonian geoglyphs. LiDAR has revealed that these aren't just random shapes. They are part of a massive, multi-layered detective story. The scans show that these geometric earthworks were part of a vast network of mound villages. What's even more fascinating is the timeline. Later civilizations actually built their homes directly on top of these older structures, layering history like a giant architectural cake. It feels like an ancient message written for the sky. For centuries, these people were drawing giant figures in the dirt, perhaps for their gods to see, never imagining that 2,000 years later, a laser beam from a drone would be the thing to finally read them. These weren't just decorative, they were the centers of spiritual and social life, connected by roads to the very cities we found in Bolivia and Ecuador. The more we scan, the more we realize the entire Amazon wasn't a forest, it was a canvas.
So, how did millions of people thrive in a place we call a green hell? They didn't fight the jungle, they redesigned it. While the Maya and Aztecs built with massive stone, the people of the Amazon worked with the only thing they had: earth and water. As archaeologist Jose Iriarte famously put it, the Incas and Maya built with stone, but Amazonians built with mud. It sounds simple, but it was an engineering miracle. They created what we now call garden cities. Instead of paved streets and gray walls, they lived in a lush, edible landscape. They engineered the soil itself, creating terra preta, a super fertile, dark earth that allowed them to farm where no one else could. They didn't just find fruit trees, they planted entire anthropogenic forests. To a visitor 2,000 years ago, the Amazon wouldn't look like a wild thicket, it would look like a giant, meticulously managed orchard. Imagine a child in the Upano Valley running across a raised causeway after a tropical storm. To his left, flooded rice and maize fields shimmer in the sun. To his right, rows of cacao and nut trees heavy with fruit. In the distance, a massive earthen pyramid rises above the tree line, pulsing with the sound of ritual drums. They lived in total harmony with the rain and the mud, proving that you don't need marble to build a masterpiece.
If this civilization was so advanced and sustainable, why did it disappear? How does a metropolis of millions simply dissolve into the leaves? There is no single smoking gun, but rather a perfect storm of catastrophe. In some regions, like the Upano Valley, massive volcanic eruptions may have choked the fields in ash. In others, shifting climates led to systems collapse, a fancy way of saying that as life got harder, people abandoned the big cities and returned to smaller, mobile tribes. But the final brutal blow came from across the ocean. When Europeans arrived, they brought invisible killers, smallpox and influenza. These plagues traveled faster than any soldier, wiping out entire road networks before a single Spaniard ever set foot in them. The result was a slow-motion apocalypse. Imagine the great causeways once echoing with the footsteps of thousands, growing silent. Moss began to carpet the earthen pyramids. Great ceiba trees sent their roots deep into the ceremonial platforms, cracking the mud foundations. Within a century, the cities didn't just fall, they were swallowed. The Amazon became a slow forest ship, drifting through time, carrying the remains of an empire beneath its floorboards. By the time 20th century explorers arrived, they saw only wild nature, never realizing they were standing on the graves of a lost world.
Whenever a discovery this big hits the news, it sparks a massive debate in the scientific world. Some researchers jump at the word Megapolis. They point to the sheer scale, comparing the central plazas of the Upano Valley to the monumental grandeur of Giza in Egypt or Teotihuacan in Mexico. They want the world to understand this was a heavy-hitting civilization. But other archaeologists are more cautious. They prefer the term low-density agrarian urbanism. Why? Because when we hear city, we think of New York or London, cramped streets, stone walls, and concrete. The Amazon was different. It was a green city. It didn't have a single downtown. Instead, it was a massive, breathable mosaic of homes, gardens, and canals stretched across the landscape. The media loves to run headlines about finding the lost El Dorado, but the reality is even cooler. It wasn't one mythical city of gold. It was hundreds of different cultures, each with its own unique way of life, connected by a continent-wide network of trade and tradition. It wasn't a single empire. It was a sophisticated, multicultural, worldwide web of the jungle. As the experts argue over terminology, one thing is certain: our old definition of civilization just got hit by a wrecking ball.
As incredible as these discoveries are, here is the real kicker. We've only scanned a fraction of the Amazon. LiDAR was the spark,
But we are now entering a second wave of discovery that feels like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. We aren't just relying on expensive planes anymore. Today, researchers are deploying swarms of cheap, high-end drones and layering that data with hyperspectral satellite imagery. But the real game changer? Artificial intelligence. Imagine a scientist sitting in a dark lab, feeding thousands of square miles of raw data into a neural network. The AI is trained to recognize the subtle geometric signatures of human construction that the human eye might miss. As the program runs, ghost cities begin to flicker onto the black monitor, one after another. It looks like street lights turning on in a long-dead metropolis across the entire continent. There are now international calls for a global LiDAR project to map the entire Amazon basin. We are turning the jungle into an archaeological outer space. Every new data set brings dozens of unknown urban layouts, irrigation systems, and roads to light. We aren't just finding ruins, we are watching a lost continent reboot itself on our screens. The map of human history is being redrawn in real time. And we've only just scratched the surface. So why does finding a few mud pyramids and old roads matter to us today? Because it shatters the ultimate myth of the Americas. For centuries, we were told the people of this land were primitive or wild. LiDAR has proven the opposite. They were master engineers, urban planners, and ecologists who built a civilization that lived with the forest, not against it. This discovery changes the conversation about the Amazon's future. Today, when we talk about deforestation, we aren't just losing trees and rare frogs. We are bulldozing the world's largest unread library of human history. Every acre cleared by fire might be a lost plaza or a forgotten temple that we never even got to scan. We've realized that the Amazon isn't a wild jungle. It's a 2,000-year-old cultural landscape. It's a garden that grew over a metropolis. As the LiDAR plane banks and heads toward the horizon, the green canopy closes back up, hiding its secrets once again. To the naked eye, it looks like a silent, empty wilderness, but we know better now. Beneath that wall of emerald green, a ghost empire is waking up. The Amazon is no longer a blank space on the map. It's a heartbeat from the past, reminding us that the greatest stories aren't always written in stone. Sometimes they are written in the earth, waiting for a beam of light to bring them home.